Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. This is Dom Famularo. This is fantastic to be here again for Mapex Live. I'm excited on Mondays when I do these interviews. With all the different interviews that I've been doing, I get a chance to really kind of step into the world of certain people and kind of see where they're at and learn about them and hopefully present this next generation to this incredible world that we have as we have this reach here on Mapex Facebook, and all of these interviews are then put on the Mapex YouTube channel. So you can go back and watch some of the old interviews. But today I have got, would you please welcome the great Mr. Josh Devine. Here we are, Josh. There it is.
Hey. How's it going, Tom? All right, there you are. Hey,
Josh, thank you so much for joining me. You know, I do these interviews and I have such a great time to kind of have a chance to kind of step into your world and kind of I want people to be introduced and to get to know who a lot of these great young players are. And you really are on the cutting edge of doing some great stuff. So I want everyone to kind of get to know you, and we'll have people that'll join us from all around the world.
Awesome. Sounds great, man. Thank you so much for having me. This is
now
awesome.
you are right now you're in the UK.
Yep, in the UK.
And you were originally from there, but you were living in LA.
Yeah.
And when you get the chance, you'll go back to LA when you can find the right time once we get past all this COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Once all the crazy uncertainty on all sides is done, I'm back. I have the luxury of being able to, come back and leave when things go a little bit pear-shaped. So, yeah, I feel very fortunate. But I miss it. I miss LA a lot.
Well, these are challenging times, and what we're doing now in the music industry is we are, trying to find the balance of where everyone is at, with concerts being, postponed. I won't say canceled, but they've been postponed for the year. And it looks like 2021 will be challenging also, but there'll be chances of getting through this year. So let me ask this too: when you're in the UK right now, you're home for the holidays, what are you doing now just to fill your time in?
Well, actually, quite a lot more drumming than I was doing in LA. In LA, you've got the luxury of the sun, the beach, a lot of things to do. So there's a lot for your time. You come back to the UK, we're on lockdown, it's cold. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit and play drums all day, every day, record some stuff. Midway through, just writing still and doing a load. So I'm keeping busy and trying to stay fit. I just started a new fitness regime today to try and get rid of those quarantine pounds. So
good.
Yeah, feeling good.
Good for you. Hey, listen, staying healthy in this time is a prime, focus, which is excellent for everyone to think about. But let me ask this. Let's go back to the beginning now. What got you? Did you come from a musical family? What got you involved in music and drumming in the first place?
Yeah. So I played drums as long as I can remember. I think the very first time I ever picked up a pair of sticks, I must have been 1 or 2. My dad was a singer in a band. Originally, he's from Zimbabwe. The band was originally, I think, started in South Africa. He came here with my mom, had me. So he carried a band called Seven. And yeah, just kind of grew up around music. He's a big time music lover, he was influenced from all the greats. So I just kind of grew up with that same passion, and was just very fortunate to have parents who were like, you're 2 years old, you like hitting things? Well, let's explore this. Here's the pads, and eventually here's the drum kit. Non-stop ever since.
Boy, what great influence to have that, and what great support. So what kind of music was your dad into that you were hearing at a young age?
Mainly, classic rock, from Toto, Journey, everything. I feel like I'm blanking now. I can't even think. Anything you can imagine from, the kind of 70s and 80s and 90s, my dad was into. I mean, he was very limited to what he grew up on, growing up in Africa. So I think, he had all the greats, but yeah, he definitely gave me a very wide variety of music. And then living in England, obviously we got some great music here. So there was a lot along the way.
Boy, there's some the incredible music that came out of the UK. I mean, listen, the entire British invasion in America was literally that. It was an invasion because we had so much influence from England in America at that time in the 60s when I grew up. And the 70s, boy, we mentioned, the 70s were kind of like, for me, it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. It was Blood, Sweat, and Tears. It was, Chicago, where there were horn bands that played funk and R&B, and it was just an incredible, James Brown. I mean, there was so much great music. And then, of course, when Journey hit and these different bands hit, there was some great music to really be listening to. That was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's one thing now. I'm just like, when you hear what's on the radio, I love all the music that's on the radio. Don't get me wrong, but when an old song comes up on Spotify, I'm like, these were the days that I weren't even alive for. And I'm like, I wish I was alive in this time to enjoy it as it came out when it was fresh. I'm like, man, it's amazing. But no, it's I'm very, very blessed to have had a good musical influence going up.
Well, that really that's a great musical influence. And what's happening at the time, which is kind of interesting, and again, I grew up in that time, on the radio, all these tunes were being played, and it was amazing to have the influence of all these different bands that were on there. So on the radio, you had a chance to hear a wide variety of different bands that were on there. And one song after another just had, just great tune after great tune, and then we would learn those songs. So when do you have memories of you first start playing drums?
I guess my earliest memory of me actually playing like drums properly was, I think I was 3-ish. It would have been 3. My dad was in a recording session. He was singing somewhere down south in England, and I remember the drummer there. The only words I remember him saying is, "Don't mess up the rims." And obviously, as a 3-year-old, I have no idea what he's talking about. But my dad sits down, puts me on his lap, and we have a video of it somewhere. I need to get him to dig it out. But that was the first time I can remember, and I clear as day just remember playing. Well, I used to play open-handed, so I started just naturally. I thought hi-hats here, left hand here, right? So I couldn't reach the pedals. My dad did all the foot stuff. I played, and I haven't watched the video back in probably a good 25 years, so I need to check it out. Yeah, I think I was okay enough for them to be like, oh, we should get this kid a drum kit. So I was like, yeah, that was my first ever memory in a nice studio. So I was like, this is cool. This is where I want to be. And then I've kind of grown up ever since, just being like, I want to do that. I want to I like that. I like just sitting there. Like, I want to get paid one day to do that. And even if I don't, I want to do that anyway. Like, I love it.
Well, that's fantastic. So you can remember you playing open-handed then, right? You can remember you playing hi-hat on the left and playing that way.
I've actually learned that way up until probably 9. And I remember a girl coming over to my house who was a lot older, and she started playing cross.
Right.
I remember being like, am I doing it wrong? Like, and I thought, I want to be cool like that. So I started playing cross-hand instead. So luckily I've kind of kept both going. I'm definitely better cross now, but I can still play open. It's got its advantages. So,
Boy, that's great that you had that level of open-mindedness. I mean, I'm playing open-handed now, and I changed 18 years ago at the age of 48. So if you can imagine in that process, I wanted to really kind of have that level of change in my playing, and it totally. I regret nothing. It has brought my weaker hand, my left hand, up to a higher level of skill. That's opened up options that are pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one thing I found is, I guess naturally when I looked at it as a kid and I saw people playing it, I'd always think that doesn't make sense to me because I want to hit hard and I can't hit hard.
Yeah,
something in the way, and just the way it makes you think of stuff differently. When you kind of think of different phrasing and you think, oh, my whole right hand is open, my drums are on this side. I'm like, oh, you're not having to do this, and this looks cool. And you see all these guys doing all this stuff, but it's like, this is more practical, and I like it. So I was like, I need to keep that going. I need to get better. I haven't played open for like quite a while now, so my hand's going to be terrible. But that's maybe my quarantine jam sessions now. I'm going to just every day play open again.
If you practice that way, and how I teach in my studio here, if you practice open-handed, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to develop your weaker hand to a higher level.
Yeah.
That's the worst that can happen, which is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
The best that can happen is you'll discover patterns that you would have never thought of before, because no other instrument teaches you to cross your hands when you first start.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like you go to piano and they say, okay, listen, here's how we're going to learn up it. So it's a very, very different mentality, but that's interesting that you started out that way. So who were some of the drummers that in the early drummers that you started recognizing were influential to you?
Very, very first drummer I can remember being like, wow, purely because my dad was like, this guy's great, was Jeff Beccaro. Jeff Beccaro was like, to me, was like the person that you know, he just sat down, grooved, and just laid it all out on the table. He's was a legendary guy.
Yeah.
So it went between him and then Simon Phillips, who was like, you know, just as groovy, but like completely the opposite scale of like, how can I play in 13/11? I mean, 13/8, sorry, 13/11. You know,
13/11 also, Simon can play in that for sure.
You know, that guy can play in anything and somehow make it sound like it's meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, he can make up stuff and it'll be perfect. So yeah, he definitely shaped my playing, especially in my kind of teen years. I really got into, I'd go back, and especially when YouTube first started becoming this big thing, I'm like, wait, I can search for like anything. So I'd go back and watch early from, you know, the 80s and see all these dudes with these big double bass kits, and they were doing this crazy stuff, and then different, you know, beats on different limbs. And I was like, this has opened up my world to a whole new dimension. So definitely for a lot of my teen years, I definitely, I wouldn't say ripped off Simon Phillips, but definitely took very heavy influence from a lot of his kind of like, you know, rock fusion kind of chops. But yeah, those kind of guys. I had a VHS video when I was a kid. I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Rod Morgenstein?
Rod Morgenstein, a phenomenal player. He lives not that far from me here on Long Island.
No way.
Yes, was with the Dixie Dregs, Steve Morse with that band, and then of course onto the band Winger. Phenomenal player and educator. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I got given a VHS that was like a thing of him playing with Jordan Rudess.
Yeah.
The keyboard player.
Keyboard, phenomenal, yeah.
Unbelievable. And there's like a couple tracks, and then like with him playing, saying like, this is what I would do. And then there's a couple of tracks with just a click saying, go for your badge, go and do what you want. And I remember going like, this stuff's crazy, you know, all the different time signatures. And I would have been 11, maybe 10 or 11. And that, again, opened my world up. I'm like, wait, I don't have to stay in 4/4. I don't have to stay in, you know, all these, you know, 3/4, 6/8, whatever. I can do one bar of you know, 9, go into about 7, then drop to 5. Like, this was all stuff that I was like, wow, groundbreaking stuff for me. You know, I'm sure drummers had done it for ages, but for me, this was like, what have I found? Like, this is great, you know. And then, yeah, I guess after that, I started getting really heavily influenced by a lot of what was going on, like current kind of bands at the time, like Usher. Obviously, Usher was all over the radio, and then I heard one live thing he did, and Aaron Spears was playing with him. And it was like, again, one of those moments when your mind is blown. You're like, did he just, for 3 whole bars, just do this, all this, like, you know, linear thing and make it sound good, and then end straight back on the one and come back in? I was like, this is something else. And then, you know, that whole, I hate using the phrase, but I guess that's what everyone's called, like the gospel chops.
Yeah.
You know, because they all grew up playing in these church bands where they were given this incredible freedom to be able to just snap at a moment's notice. But they are so annoying, and like not even like 1 or 2 greats. Like everybody in that scene was like groundbreakingly insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, these were all kind of like drummers that really started me on different paths. And then obviously you find other drummers that do similar things as well, and you go in, and even to this day, there's still drummers I'm watching now where I'm like, whoa, like where did you come from? And you're insane. You know, please.
There's a lot more of them popping up as you're talking. They really are, and it's just so great. You know, listen. So you went from players like Beccaro to Simon, and then, you know, Rod Morgenstein to Aaron Spears. So you really have kind of, you know, grabbed a wide variety of players from pop players to progressive players to even gospelish kind of players. Boy, it's pretty amazing. That's a real great wide variety that you have. Yeah,
I mean, I guess as well, throughout my, 13, 14, 15-year-old stage, I got very, very much into like the heavy metal stuff. So, you know, Joey Jordison from Slipknot, all the way through to even today, Ray Luzier from Korn, who is one of the nicest guys as well, but iconic. What a great drummer. And he plays this metal stuff with such finesse, but he doesn't approach it where it's just like, double kick all the time and just thrashing. It's like, there's some tasty playing in that. Like, these are people that also helped shape me in that thing. I take a lot I sponge from different people, unashamedly sponge from different people.
Good for them, and that's part of the learning process, and I have a YouTube channel that I'm involved with called The Sessions Panel, where I interview several different artists, and I've interviewed Simon Phillips, I've interviewed some of these great players, and even you mentioned Tony Royster early on. I interviewed Tony Royster, and to have these great players play and sit down with them, you'd be surprised, where they came from and who they stole from.
Exactly. I guess that's the thing. It's we all hear stuff, we kind of mash it all up in our own brains, and then output whatever our influences are and give our own spin to it. So it's a beautiful thing, and I hope one day someone turns around and says, hey, like, I got this lick from you, and then I'm going to go, life complete, done, happy.
I think you'll be amazed of how many people are already starting to, just from some of the stuff that you've done from your own EP that you put out into one direction. And I'm sure even with what's happening with Lavara now, which I want to get into also. So at that point, were you taking any lessons at that point at a younger age? Did you start any formal lessons?
Yeah, so I taught myself until I was about 11, and I just found I hit the biggest brick wall as you do, when you're kind of trying to teach yourself. So when I moved up to Leicestershire, where my family are now, we got involved with a local drum teacher called Darren McHarg, who is a legend. Still to this day, I keep in touch. He's incredible, one of the most incredible drummers still.
Beautiful.
And he really took me on and said, right, let's these are what you're good at. This is what you're really bad at. So let's work on what you're really bad at. Let's keep working on what you're good at. Let's bring it up. Is there anything you really want to do? And that was the beauty of having lessons with somebody that you get on with really, really well, and you kind of respect. Because I also took piano lessons, and the lady, lovely lady, don't get me wrong, but was very much like, read it, and I'd be like, hey, well, I want to learn how to play this song. Nope, read this, you're learning to do this. And I was like, okay. Whereas Darren would always say to me, hey, like, what are you listening to? I'd say, oh, I like Linkin Park. And he'd go, cool, I'm going to transcribe this Linkin Park song for you, and we're going to learn something first. I'd go, yeah, let's do this. And then he'd be like, okay, cool, now we're going to do some jazz. I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll try. And then I'd fail really badly. And then he goes, cool, it's fine, let's keep pushing it through. It's some more jazz. And then before you know it, you've got like this whole broad array. And he'd always say, hey, you want to be a session drummer? You've got to do it all. You've got to be able to, comfortably play anything they want to throw into you. So, it's I owe everything to Darren. I would not be anywhere where I am now without him.
Great. That's great educational, planning. That's really good for Darren. So were there any books you were working on?
Yeah, we did. I think we just did all the, what's it called? The Guildhall.
Yeah, the Guild book. Yeah. They've got some good books in that.
All the great books. And then he had, I can't remember the names of them, but tons of books with tons of charts in it. And he seemed to have like a library of everything. Yeah, every style you can imagine, and he'd really get into it. I mean, it was a long time ago. To be fair, I should probably hit him up and say, yo, I haven't played jazz in 10 years, and I'm going to suck so bad at it. Let's go. I think I'll do it. As soon as lockdown ends, I'm going back for a couple of lessons. That's for sure.
This might be the time. Well, it's the best time to do that now. Even in the points of now, just even online lessons, just to kind of, while you have the time, to go back and challenge ourselves in the process. We've got people from all around the world here that are hopping on. Literally tons of different countries. Here's a gentleman. He's a phenomenal drummer himself. He's from the Miami area. Carlos Gutzman, who's a phenomenal drummer, and actually he's a dear friend. He's a great guy.
So Carlos.
Yeah, if you had the chance to start learning to play drums all over again, what would you do differently, knowing what you know now?
I would pay more attention to learning to read, like get my reading chops up, basically. I very much, from a very young age, just everything was by ear. And I would cheat a little bit when when Darren, my drum teacher, would say like, okay, cool, this is a piece, read this. And I'd look at it and I kind of fumble through it. And then he would be like, okay, cool, I'm going to show you this next part. And he'd show me it. And instead of reading along, I'd watch him and I'd just copy what he played. So then, and a lot of the time, he could tell because my eyes aren't looking at the music, they're looking down. And I've got quite a good ability, even with guitar, bass, keys, everything, to hear music and just play something that fits.
Yeah.
Like, not amazing at all the other instruments, but just like I can get by ear. So I reckon if I had to redo anything, I mean, I say redo, I can start again now and really try and get my reading chops up. But from an earlier age, I would have definitely taken the reading side more seriously. I think there's nothing more badass than having a chart in front of you and being able to go, okay, let's go, bang, in, perfect. Like, which so many drummers can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it blows my mind completely.
Well, that really is a whole nother skill base that it kind of speeds the process up. When you see it musically written down, it's like learning a language. You look at a foreign language and you look at the words and you understand it right away, and you kind of get a chance to step into the music even faster. But that's great. Yeah. Thank you, Carlos. So so now you go on and you put your own EP together. And was this done with Ollie Green? You had put together Through the Fire. Was that your first EP?
That was my first solo EP where I thought, and this was 2014, so this was actually towards the end of the One Direction touring days, and that was something like, you know what, I'm gonna have a go, writing some music and not necessarily playing drums on everything, more like, hey, let's start on guitar, let's start on piano, and Ollie Green, dear friend of mine, incredible piano player and an incredible songwriter. So I thought, you know what, let's have some fun, let's write some music for other people and see what happens. And then we eventually realized, well, we're singing on everything to demo it. We quite like this. Let's put this out. So we dabbled in that, and it was fun. Really, really fun.
How great. So how did One Direction start? Where did that come in then?
So that was like a random Wednesday morning phone call from somebody that I'd never spoken to before. I added on Facebook. His name's Chris Leonard. He is a legend above all legends. He is an incredible, accomplished guitar player. He's a great songwriter. He's written loads with Ed Sheeran. So I mean, this guy's big deal. Yeah. And the nicest guy too. But a friend of mine years before, probably in like 2008, said, "Yo, add this guy Chris on Facebook. He's like the guy that, there could be some work in it one day in the future." I was like, okay, cool. And I did. We never talked for like 2 years, as you do with half the people on Facebook. You add people thinking like, oh yeah, cool, and then never speak to them. And he randomly messaged me once in 2011, I think. And he was just like, hey, got an opportunity. You have the look. I just want to know if you'd be down. There's this band that's just come off the X Factor called One Direction. And I remember going, oh, I remember those guys, because I watched the X Factor. I was like, oh, it's like a pop band. There's like 5 singers. This isn't really my vibe. This isn't what I really dig. But I'm never going to say no to a TV. It was like a one-off TV gig. Yeah. It was a mime. I just had to turn up, mime along to this track. They were all singing live, but I had to mime. So I was like, I've never done that, but let's go. I'm in.
And where was that?
That was in London. That was their first ever TV performance outside of the X Factor, which was the show that they didn't even win. They came third, which I mean, hell, hasn't stopped them, has it? So we just I kind of did that. To me, I was like, this is great, an opportunity. I get to be on TV, on like primetime English TV, and I get to see where those leads. But for me, it was like a one-off. I was like, oh, this is really cool. What a great experience. Hopefully something comes of this. Maybe someone else sees me and says, oh, I want to get him on drums for me. And at the time I had the like Justin Bieber haircut with the sweet. I looked about 15. So they said, oh yeah, you look like you could be in a boy band. I didn't know whether to take offense to that or whether I was like, okay, cool. And that just turned into, I did one, and I got friendly with Harry Styles. He was he's like a child. was 16, but the sweetest, humble dude. And there was 1,000 girls outside waiting, screaming for him. And I was like, oh, this is serious. This isn't like, this isn't a phase. This is like, there's some legs in this. And eventually I got a call from the MD, John Schoen, who left me a voicemail just saying, hey, if you're down to audition, we'd love to, the boys liked you, the management loved you. Let's see if you can actually play, not just mime. And I was like, okay, my first ever audition, like, let's go. So drove to London, did an audition. There was a ton of other drummers there, like one in, one out, one in, one out kind of thing. And my audition started, terrible audition. I mean, I think I played it right, obviously, but I mean, I'm not saying obviously like a big headed thing, obviously, because I got the gig, but it was terrible. The guy before me had stolen the headphone jack. So I get to plug my headphones in, my cans in. I'm like, and he's like, oh, well, we don't have any. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, this isn't going well. He's very much just sitting there, John, sitting there like, all right, show us what you can do. And that's play along to a track and everything. And then I got called back. It was like 3 days of nail biting, like, oh, what's going on? Got called back and got told I had the gig. And I was like, wow, okay. So one tour in, thinking this is cool. I just get to do a UK tour and that's it. No one knew what was going to happen next. And before you know it, I got a call saying, right, be at the American Embassy, London, March 2nd, I think it was. At the end of March, you're going to America. We're going to break America. So I was like, whoa, okay. I'd never been to the US. So I was like, this is like a dream come true. I get to go to New York. I get to go to LA. And it all started, and it was a blur until the hiatus. So it's like crazy.
What year was that when it started?
That was 2011 for me.
So you hit it. Now, all of a sudden now, so listen, when you think about this, this is like a movie. You get the call, already you're on TV. Miming or not, you're on TV and you're getting that kind of exposure. Then they hit the tour. Now you make the move to, so when you went on the tour to the US, what was that like, going on the tour to the US?
It was literally like, how you see videos of like the Beatlemania, where you just see seas of people crowding cars and buses and throwing things at people, literally the crazy. It was like that. It was a cross between that and a zombie apocalypse. You walk out somewhere and it's just like 100,000 people just. Nothing hit home until I think it was mid-March, and we played at the Rockefeller Center. We did the Today Show, and it was an outdoor thing. I'll never forget it. We had to be there at 4 a.m. It was freezing cold. And we played, and I think Justin Bieber held the record for the amount of people out there. I think he had like 11,000.
Yeah.
There, and we got there, and it's 15,000 people on the street. So we were like, okay, this is happening. This is crazy. And obviously the 5 boys are like, in a world of their own, like, this is just amazing. And the 4 of us musicians are like, we must be the luckiest people in the world. We get to do this. I mean, look, love them or hate them, One Direction were one of the biggest bands at the time.
Huge.
It's mind blowing. People don't really understand how crazy that was to see that from like our point of view.
Yeah.
So it was weird. America was like, I had girls running across the road on Fifth Avenue and rugby tackling me, just like trying to get pictures and stuff. I'm like, why are they asking me for a picture? I play the drums. Like, I'm not one of the 5 guys. Like, no one cares about me. And yeah, it's that obsessive fan base that they just love everything to do, and it is the greatest thing ever. I love them back. It's incredible. I love it. It's mad.
This girls rugby tackling you in the street. Is this a bad thing? No.
This never happens. Like, I've always said, like, ever since I was a kid as a joke, I'd always be like, I don't want to be famous. I never want to be famous. I never want people. I never want to have to step out of my house and worry about like paparazzis taking pictures and all that. And I still, to this day, feel exactly the same after going through everything that I've gone through and seeing everything on that side. I'm like, wow, I wouldn't want to be those 5 guys where they can't do anything. They go and do something, and you've got a mob of people doing stuff. But I got a small part of that, and it was something that I will never forget, and I'll never take advantage of. I thought it's never take for granted. Sorry, it was one of the best experiences, and an experience that no one can ever really prepare you for, because there is no that doesn't really happen a lot, especially for like session musicians. Like, I'm a session guy. why do they care about me? You know, why do they care about us as a four? Like, you know, we could be replaced like that.
Yeah.
And thankfully they didn't. Thankfully we were there for the whole ride. And yeah, I'm just, it's one of those things I still have to pinch myself and say, you know, if I was never able to play drums again in my life and I had to go and do something completely different, I still lived one of the most insane session stories. I'm like, this is something that I'll forever be grateful for.
Boy, how amazing! I've got Jeff Towers here, a wonderful drummer from Canada, phenomenal player. He says, "Hey, Josh, what's the One Direction gig like as far as your parts? Are you able to make the songs your own? What was it like to design drum parts specifically for this band?"
Absolutely. So,
thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. What's up, Jeff? Thanks for the question, dude. Okay, so yeah, very, very much so. Obviously, there's a lot of the, you know, basic kind of pop mentality sampling of like, you know, you've got the 4 on the floor kick for some songs, and it's all about, you know, just that real pop sound. I was able to pretty much interpret it whatever way I wanted to, especially so. The further along everything got, so on the very, very first ever tour we did, it was very much like I've watched back videos. We did a DVD, and when I listen back, I'm like, oh, cringe. It's so like, you know, vanilla. Like everything's just by the book.
Yeah.
And then you see we did 2 movies that ended up coming out on DVD. But when you listen to the progression of the 3, you just hear my progression of a kind of confidence of making these songs. Being like, you know what? I'm not just going to go. I'm going to keep that in there because that's the groove.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm going to throw some flavor in there. I'm going to throw some tasty little treats out to people and hope that, you know, it makes people dance. At the end of the day, we're there to provide a rhythm, provide a groove, and we're there to make people move. So I'm like, you know, I'm gonna have some fun with it. And yeah, there were times I definitely went overboard. I definitely had too much of the old gospel influence. I actually have a video that I posted a little while back, where the ending of the songs were always, you know, we could kind of do whatever we want, go a bit crazy. And there was one part where Dan, the guitar player, got like a solo at the very end. And it was in the middle of a long tour. And I kind of was fed up of like, you know, like, it's the solo bit again, there's a cool, I'm not going to play. So I just went ham. I was chopping over everything. I think I did like a full 4-bar, just one big massive drum fill over the whole thing. And Sandy, our bass player, I filmed it on GoPro. You see Sandy turn around at the end, he just goes, ah! He was like, what the hell are you doing? That sounds like right, but what the hell was that? It was very fun. So yeah, we definitely got to make the parts our own. As long as I didn't stray too far from, you know, what is on the record and what people love. And as long as it still serves the song and serves the purpose of the group. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about the 5 guys, the 4 guys. So, you know, as long as everything lifts and supports them, it was good.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about your setup now. Did your setup stay the same when you were on tour? Did it change with different gigs?
It grew. It definitely grew. I think I started off with a smallish kit. I mean, I say small, like 3 rack toms, 4 kick, 2 snares, a load of cymbals. I always had more cymbals than I ever needed, really. But, you know, I was 19, 20, and Paisty was saying to me, what do you want? And Mapex said, what do you want? So I'm like, oh, it's that kind of game. Cool. I'm in. I'm really in. Let's go. And then I think it grew to, I ended up still, I always kept the 3 rack toms. There was just something about the configuration of having the little 8-inch tom on the left that it just always popped so well. And I just got so used to it. So I kept that 2 floors, and I added a gong drum. I got Mapex to get me an 18-inch bass drum, and my drum tech Fred took the bottom plugs out, took the back head off, and we kind of mounted it onto my rack, and just stuck like an 18-inch tom head on it, and yeah, made this like makeshift gong drum, which I see so many people doing as well. I mean, that was my Simon Phillips influence, you know. The sound of that big monstrous gong drum, and I was like, I want that sound. Like, when am I ever going to use that in a One Direction gig? I don't know, but I'll figure it out. I want it. And then yeah, I just ended up tons of cymbals. Actually, I remember saying to Fred, my drum tech, bless him, he is one of the most incredible drum techs in the world. He's Irish, and I said to him as a joke, I was like, "Hey Fred, so for this next tour, I'm going to add another rack tom. So I'm going to put I'm going to go 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, and I'm going to add another kick drum, 22, just for symmetry, just because I fancy it." And he looked like he was about to grab a gun and shoot me between my eyes. It's like, well, we're going to need a riser then. I think we might need another drum tech because I'm not setting that shite up myself. I remember like, I'm kidding. I did leave him for about 2 days to kind of think about it as a joke. And the poor guy was like trying to design stuff of like, okay, I'll make it work. And I was like, dude, I'm completely joking.
Although you were joking, there are a lot of drummers that don't joke that way. And Carlos Gutzman, who was just on here before, is also a drum tech, and he's teched for so many of the top drummers in the world. And that's a part of the journey, man. You got to really understand the gear, and you got to understand what is needed, that the drum set, the drum player wants, what that tour needs. It's a pretty serious commitment when you want to tech this stuff.
I tell you what, I always try to make it as easy for Fred as I possibly could. I've seen people treat drum techs so bad, scream at them when things go wrong. But I tell you what, Fred always very respectfully gave me what I was looking for, but also kind of showed me other ways of being like, hey, listen, when I'm watching, I'm noticing you're doing this and you're trying to achieve this sound. Back off here, and I'm going to do this. And he kind of gave me like almost like advice and coaching and stuff. And he was always right. He was always right. So I'm like, what? Respect. I love it. So no, we had a very good relationship. We still keep in touch. It's been 5 years. So yeah, no, it's good. Respect for anyone that can drum tech, because that is a hard gig.
Oh, it's and you've got to be right there if something goes wrong, if something loosens up or something breaks. It's serious commitment.
Just one more Fred story. I have to say, it's probably the best thing Fred's ever done ever. I was in Perth, Australia, playing at an arena, and we were 3 songs from the end, and I had a rack, just like a big rack holding quite a lot of stuff, and including mics and stuff. We put a lot off the racks.
Yeah.
And my cousin was 2 rows back. I could see him over. You got the sea of girls all about the same height, and you got my cousin who was like 6'2", like one of the only dudes in the crowd. And I looked at him, and I remember him going, "Yeah," and this turned to, "Oh!" I was like, "Why are you freaking?" The rack snapped, and the whole left-hand side of my kit fell off, and I was on a high riser with like ramps going down, fireboxes. The whole left-hand side of my kit, so my left tom, snare, my in-ear monitor station, all the mics fell off the kit. Luckily, no one was underneath it. I think it would have killed someone. And Fred had to sit there for the rest of the show, cross-legged, holding my hi-hat mic. He was just like sitting there, and the poor guy hadn't got time to get his in-ears in properly, so he's like sitting there trying to shelter the time as well. I wasn't just hitting from here, I'm like hitting from here. I'm like, I'm in an arena, I'm going to just smack and stuff. Poor guy, but no, he's an absolute, no damage. No damage to my drums or cymbals, so thankfully.
That is a dedicated tech. Let me take this question here from Roger Springfield. He says, sorry guys, I missed it. Question from Australia. What Mapex kit are you using? Well, Roger, you haven't missed it because that's exactly what we're going to start talking about right now. Thank you, Roger. What Mapex kit are you using right now?
So right now, I think I have a Saturn V. I have a few. So I've got a Saturn V in America. And that is my like go-to touring and studio kit.
Yeah, that's what this is back here. It's a Saturn V.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like the whole Soniclear edges and stuff.
Yeah.
It's insane. I love it. And then I have 2 Saturn IVs here, both currently in storage. One's actually with Mapex, with Martin and the guys, and one is at Heathrow at a lockup that I was using on the last tour with 1D. And that one actually, I think I got it before the Soniclear edge. The bearing edges were rounded more. Yeah. So my actually going up. I hate that I'm saying this. The whole Mapex company are going to go, no, why did you do that? Fred got the whole thing and smoothed it out. Actually created our own rounded bearing edges because I got the order in just before they changed it. I remember Joe Hibbs showed me, he's like, I need to show you something at the NAMM when it came out. And he goes, look at this, stick the head on. I'm like, oh yeah, look, it moves. And he goes, cool. Now stick it on the new ones. And it's like sits perfectly. Yeah. And I remember just going, that's going to make my life of tuning, make my text life so much easier. Like, we need this.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, that's out of the mind of Joe Hibbs. Again, rest his soul. So talk about how'd you get involved with Mapex? But let's go back to the drummer of tomorrow, 2007. You're 16 years old. I was judging that, and you won the UK version of that.
Yeah.
Incredible. That.
It was oh man, yeah. That was probably the most nerve-wracking. I played some of the biggest stadiums in the world, and no joke, nothing tops the nervousness of playing that show. Then it was horrible but amazing at the same time. It went my way. There were some amazing drummers as well.
There were some phenomenal drummers there, but I got to tell you something. You really very maturely played the parts, and your sound was great. What you pulled out of the drums, what you chose to play, how you played it. There were so many aspects of what you did so well, man. So you made it happen. That was pretty powerful.
Thank you. No, it was fun. That's the moment that I actually started everything for me. I think it gave me the confidence to say, like, okay, maybe this isn't a dream anymore. Maybe this is something I can actually work towards doing properly. And it gave me some credibility. Oh. It gave me the balls to be able to message people that I liked, like musically, and say, hey, I really like your music. Check out a video that I just won this competition. Mapex and Peisty have got behind me. I'd love to play on some of your stuff. And this was on the good old MySpace days, like back on MySpace. So it was it gave me the confidence, and people started taking me seriously. Because look, at the end of the day, I was a 16-year-old child, and I couldn't even get into any pubs to go and play shows and stuff. So no one wants to take a minor into an environment like that and make them play, let alone even think about it. So the fact that I did this competition gave people a little bit more of a, oh, maybe it's worth it. Like maybe we should try them out. And yeah, it's how it all started for sure.
Well, it's pretty amazing to think about. And there are some people in the backstage that have helped out. Here's Martin Potts. Martin is such a great guy. Korg is the distribution company that's in the UK. Martin Potts, Duncan, these guys that are there that are just so fantastic to kind of get you involved. So now you get involved with the company, and then once you get involved with the company, now all of a sudden you're meeting people like Miles Chen at the time, who was the Artist Relationship Global, which he eventually left, and then Joe Hibbs came into the picture in the US part of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What struck me the most, and I always, it was just the way I thought it was going to be, of like, it was like one big family. The whole drumming community is one big family. Yeah. But everyone at Mapex was just so cool. Everyone was just sound. Everyone, again, I was a child, yet they treated me like they would have treated any of their endorsees. Yeah. Guys that had played on big gigs, guys that were respectable drummers, and Martin, and Duncan first. Those were the first guys I met at the company, and they just always treated me so well, such respect. And I just loved being around, the whole Mapex family. And then obviously when I moved to the US and really got to meet Joe Hibbs properly, and also this incredible
Bob Terry, another great player and another great drum tech too.
Absolutely.
So many drummers. Bob, thanks for joining us. And he had worked with him, man. What a great guy.
Honestly, the whole team, the whole US team as well, just every single time I needed something, or every single time when I was in a bind live or anything, they were on it. And that's what you want, as when you're repped by a company, and when you have this company behind you, you want to be able to be like, hey guys, this has happened. What do I do? And they're like, we're on it, done, and then it's done. So I'm just grabbing my charger because my laptop's literally, I just realized.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I had the chance of, when I was in the UK a couple of years ago, playing the big UK drum show. And of course, Martin Potts and everybody from Korg was there, and they assisted me with my gear. And, Martin he had everything exactly correct to what I like. And
Mhm.
because of that, it just takes a few minutes to set up. You have exactly what you have. The heads, everything is there. I went on and performed, and we had 700 to 1,000 people at this show. It was just fantastic. So when you have that kind of a team behind you, it really kind of makes things easier.
It really makes all the difference. And huge credit to Martin. I played at the Drummer Live 2008. I opened the Sunday, I think it was, and I was midway through my solo piece, and my kick drum pedal, I didn't tighten it onto the hoop properly, so I'm like trying to kick, it's not working, so I'm just keeping the hands going, and Martin sees it, so he dashes straight across, goes in there, tries to fix the kick drum pedal, and in my mind I'm like, oh, he's connected it, cool. So I kick down as hard as I can. The poor guy's hand is literally underneath. He's ever recovered. I don't think he'll ever or anything, because he's just going to think, oh, he's just going to abuse me. But no shame. I think I squashed his hand.
You'll recognize Mark when you go to see him. His hand is all whacked out, but he's a great guy. He's a funny guy to work with too. He's just, but again, it's that level of personalities, real good people to work with. Those are the people behind the scene, and the fact that you had the chance to work with Joe Hibbs, as I said, another brilliant mind in the drumming community that is no longer with us. But these people really kind of help shape the behind the scenes of what makes a product like Mapex so great. So here's Saturn 5, Saturn 4, and I've got a Saturn 4 over here that my student kid here is a Saturn 4 too that I have. Tell me about, you have a Velvetone snare there?
I do. This one actually has a funny story too. So this absolute beauty.
I love that drum. I've got a Velvetone too. I love the sound of that drum.
It's so good. So the last time I used this was actually with I'm not with Remo anymore, so I shouldn't show that. But no, so the last time I used this drum, which is why it hasn't been re-headed, was on the last stadium tour I did with One Direction. So this thing came with me. I've got two of these. We always needed a spare because I hit so damn hard. I'd go through the heads, and I'd have to swap out the song. Fred would have to run up and help me swap it out. I always had a second snap just in case. So this thing's seen some action. That's for sure. And so much so that actually, if you see here, that is a 5.5-year-old dried blood stain from one of the shows. I can't even remember which one, but it must have been a good show. That's for sure. Yeah, these things. This drum specifically as well. I played this, and I had a blaster, 13-inch blaster, which was odd. I always liked weird sizes. So I was like, yeah, I'll have a 13-inch. Let's try. And I think it was 13 by 6. So I think it's slightly deeper.
Might have been, yeah.
I mean, that I think you crank it up. It's got all the height, but still all the body. I was like, it was a very, very nice sounding snare. But this was my baby for a very long time.
Boy, but all of their new snares, I had the chance of seeing all of the snares lined up at the recent NAMM show that happened earlier this year. And by having all the drums there and all the snare drums themselves tuned up so well to play them, the unique sounds that Mapex delivers, and just how cost effective the drums are, how great they sound. It really was a wide variety of snare sounds that just blew me away. And of course, with their new drum sets that are out now, the Evolution, the Evo drums, Birch, those blew me away too. So there's a real creative brain power behind it, and especially with people like Russ Miller, who helped the Design Lab stuff, who has opened up a whole nother level of dynamic with what Mapex has done. Really brilliant stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm loving it. I think all the new stuff, from what I've heard so far, I haven't managed to get my hands on any of the new snares yet, but rest assured, I will be relentless until I get one.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that'll happen sooner than later. Tell me about Levara. What's happening with Levara now?
So yeah, Levara, my new venture with two of my dear bros, Trevor Lukather and Jules Galley, two insanely talented mofos. These we managed to get in and record our debut album in January, just before the lockdown, before the world went into hysteria.
Yeah,
we actually finished all our mixing the day of lockdown in LA. So we accomplished everything, it's the first time I've been in another band signed by a label. These people believe in us, and
nice.
And we're ready to get out as soon as we can.
Well, that's so now when you recorded everything and you finished everything at lockdown, how soon was it to stay in LA before you went back to the UK?
We stayed in LA for about 6 months. So we did a 6-month lockdown. Hull and I just kind of used the time to go, okay, let's try and get fit. Let's try and just live life in America as you can. Enjoy what we can. And it was a glorious day when the beaches reopened, and we were like, we can go to the beach. This is great. And then we came back in August. I think it was the 1st of August we landed back in the UK, and then been here ever since. I flew to LA a couple of weeks ago. I just got back from LA. I did a 2-week stint. I had to go and film 3 music videos, 2 music videos, some shoots and stuff for the band. So it was needed. So right now I'm actually in complete isolation. I can't go anywhere near my fiance. I can't go anywhere near anyone. It's like I'm contagious, even though I'm not. I'm not sick, luckily, but got to respect the rules. Got to.
So basically, you're in quarantine right now, is what it is, right?
Literally in quarantine. So my excuse, I can now play drums all day, every day, and no one can say any different. No one can say, hey, you need to go into town and get some fresh air. Nope.
How great is this? This is fantastic. Now, I know you have your fiance. You recently got engaged to get married. This is fantastic. Congratulations. So what is it like now that you've got someone in your life? When you go to travel, you've got to find a whole different level of balance of how to make this all work. It's
so hard. I'm so used to it. So Hol and I got together in 2014. So when I was on tour already. So we were used to distance. She was actually an incredible dancer. She'd go around the world dancing as well. So she gets it. But it was, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was tough. We had 6 months where I didn't have to leave. She didn't have to do anything. We had 6 months of like 24 hours a day together in lockdown. We then come back here. It's like, we've got just nonstop time. And then I went back to LA for 2 weeks, and it was tough. It was like, now we're engaged. Now it's like, you've got to, it's not just like a girlfriend anymore. It's not like a kind of like, oh, it's like, nope, this is my soul.
In time. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, this is this is crazy. So yeah, it was tough being away for 2 weeks, but I have to get used to that. I'm going to be touring a hell of a lot. So, well, hopefully, if the live industry ever starts up again, which it will. So yeah, no, it is difficult though, isn't it? And it must be even more difficult when you have children. Like that's the next step, obviously, and it must be so hard.
But as difficult as it is, we find the solutions. We work towards it. You get through it all. I mean, and it'll all work out well. And people now you're involved. You're on Facebook. You're on Instagram. You're on Twitter. You're on all the different social media stuff, right?
Yes, I am.
So with that, people could track down. You'll fill them in on what you're doing as far as keeping them posted with. So I ask everyone to go and follow what Josh is doing on his Facebook page, on his Instagram page, on Twitter. Stay involved with that so they can be involved with what's going on. I think you've got this incredible future ahead of you what you've done so far at a young age is really fantastic, Josh. It really, really is. And you've got this whole world opened up for you now. It's just a matter of just maintain this pace and stay healthy and keep doing it.
Absolutely, and you inspired me. I'm gonna look into education and teaching, and I think I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and take a couple lessons myself. So,
well, I think listen, a great time now. I mean, if you go back and take a couple lessons, it's just to kind of while you have this time right now, because once the touring gets back into it, our lives are going to be upside down again.
Yeah.
So what we have this time, but I'd also like it. I think you'd make a great teacher in the fact that if anybody is out there that wants some sessions or some lessons with Josh, and the lesson could be learning some of the techniques he's playing, where there could be these teaching lessons, there could be these coaching lessons where you might want, Josh to kind of watch your playing and just kind of open you up a little and give you some advice that way. Or there might be, even as I said, some consultation where Josh can guide you along the way in how to build up your social media, how to work on all these different ways in this 21st century to have an active career being a musician and living your passion. This is huge.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Well, I think it's fantastic. Josh, I want to thank you so much. What you've done is great. You've got a great future ahead of you. Everyone look for Lavara and what's happening and check it out and follow that for sure. And keep it going, Josh. I think what you've done is great. When I heard you play at 16 years old at the Drummer of Tomorrow, you blew me away there. And I go back to many of these drummers that I see and witness as their careers grow. you're one of those up and coming guys that is really kind of becoming the next future of where this art form is going, and you're doing great with it.
Thank you so much, Don. Really appreciate it, man. And thank you for everything you do for the community as well. You're a complete legend. It's an honor to talk to you.
I'm still doing it, believe it or not. And what I love doing it is that I get a chance to kind of meet players like yourself that give me the confidence and the real, feeling that we're in good hands. We really are in good hands with this next generation to keep it all going. And I think what you're doing is great. Stay well. Congratulations now that your engagement. Stay well, stay safe, wash your hands, wear a freaking mask, make it happen, stay well. And at some point, we'll touch base in 2021, but also enjoy the holidays, Josh.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, man. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.